Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today we are going to be talking about something rather peculiar. We recently brought 8 YouTubers out to Utah to do some backpacking with us. And my oh my, was it an experience. I've got Derek here on the podcast today to recap this adventure with us. How you doing today, Derek?
I'm doing pretty good. It's warming up outside and just can't complain too much right now. About to take a little bit of a vacation, so
yeah,
morale is high, I would say.
I'm jealous. You're taking a nice international flight to go see some awesome stuff. So I'll be jealous all of next week while you're out. But yeah, I mean, just the warmer weather is phenomenal for sure. And we've had some good trips and some good outings over the last month. It's been awesome. So, I mean, I do love winter. I do love backpacking in winter, but it's time. It's time for the sun to come out.
Oh, absolutely.
And be warm. But yeah, I guess before we jump into this silly recap, I guess you could say, is there anything else, I guess, just going on in your world that we need to bring up or talk about? I mean, you are the marketing director after all. I'll give you a 5-second pitch here, I guess, if there's anything new to talk about.
5-second pitch.
5 seconds. I'm a little tight, but
well, first and foremost in my mind, just about every day is my wife and I, we're going to have our first little baby here in about a couple months from now, actually. So that's what we're gearing up for around my neck of the woods, and I'm just really excited to be a dad.
It's going to change your life, man. It's going to be amazing.
I hope so. Yeah.
You guys are going to love it, though. Both of you guys are ready for this. So you go on this little baby moon and come back, and it'll be game time.
Absolutely. It'll be into the thick of it right after we get back, I think. But
for sure. Okay. Well, for a few years now, I have wanted to bring YouTubers to Utah or bring them out on a trip and backpack with them. We a few years back, we worked a little bit with a media company, PR company, and we did some backpacking trips with like some writers and stuff, and it was awesome. Met some amazing people. But you know, from the very beginning of Outdoor Vitals, I got onto YouTube early and started to do some education and of how to take care of products, and then we did some torture test videos, and it just kind of spiraled into our YouTube channel now. And I've always just had one foot in YouTube. And so meeting YouTube creators always felt like I was talking with people that I really understood, spent a lot of time with. And I always saw the value, too, of just what YouTube is, right? That's such a cool audience. It's such a cool way to interact with people. And so, you know, we've actually originally brought our very first YouTuber to Utah to backpack with us in 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
That was Syntax. That was Syntax 77. We brought him out. We did some hiking in Zion National Park, and it's a really cool experience. But it's like it's planning, it's time, it's all of these things. And so then later, you know, we've brought Dan Becker out a couple times. We've gone on trips with Justin Outdoors where we've gone and met him. We've been on trips with Devin Ashby. We've done some trips, right? But it was always like, what if we did the whole itinerary, planned it all around YouTubers, and really specialized, I guess, the content and the use of that trip so that it could not only be like a trip with Outdoor Vitals, but also like a trip for YouTubers to collaborate, meet each other, help each other with problems on YouTube, or help, you know, kind of go down this like where they can rub shoulders and build collaborations. And it's just kind of this like pipe dream. And as we worked with this PR company, we started to like put together bigger trips. We're like, oh, we could totally do this for YouTube, but it's manpower, it's time, it's resources. And so fast forward a few years, we pulled it off. We finally just buckled down, did all the planning, did all the work to fly these different eight different YouTubers to Utah and do a trip. And so, man, let's see if I can recap all of the YouTubers that we brought. And there's been some awesome videos out there if you guys want to watch any of these that have already been published. But we brought Miranda out. We brought Elena Osborne. We brought Gordon Crum, who is from Grim Granite.
Grim Granite.
He's got some of the most amazing shorts. You might not know him for longer form YouTube yet, but he used to be Dan Becker's video editor, and now he has a really cool YouTube channel called Grim Granite. We brought back nice Bryce Newbold. We brought Syntax 77, Sean back out.
Justin Outdoors.
Justin Outdoors.
Eric Hansen.
Jeff Peltier.
Yep.
And I think that's 8.
That's 8 there. We had a couple others that we invited and were about to come as well, but then last minute they had a couple family things or personal matters come up that prevented them from coming. But
the funny thing is actually it was Kyle. Kyle hates hiking, right? He was like the guy who kept bugging me. He's like, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? And so like he kind of like pushed me to push everyone else on the team to make this happen. And then last minute he couldn't make it. And so he was kind of the standing joke on the trip of like, hey, take a picture, send it to Kyle, what he's missing out on. But we'll get him out for sure. But so yeah, we brought these YouTubers in. The idea was, I mean, obviously that we can get some exposure with just product for Outdoor Vitals, but it's also just to build relationships and have a good time. And so I guess the rough itinerary, right, was just to fly people in. We'd stay at an Airbnb for a night. We'd go out on trail for a night. Then we'd come back to the Airbnb, and then people would fly out the next day.
Yeah. Well, what I think was really cool about this trip, actually, it was you kind of touched on this before, but in the outdoor industry specifically, there's a lot of brands that they'll bring in influencers of some sort, right? They do these PR trips, and they try to just get writers, editors, journalists, and sometimes YouTubers just familiar with their brand or their product, and that's fairly normal. However, when we started doing this a couple of years ago, we still didn't do it, I guess, the quote unquote normal way. A lot of YouTubers commented on this before when we were out and writers, journalists, and writers as well when we did this in the past. And they said, this is so unique. We're actually out hiking. We're actually out using the product. A lot of them are more used to
trail.
These PR trips. A lot of them were used to just like whining and dying. They'll see the product, they'll handle it, they'll get it, get to kind of test it and see if it's something they want to write about or create some sort of content about. But they don't actually have the whole backpacking experience or
there's like there was some real nervousness of like actually sleeping out on trail, like with new gear for some of these people, right? Because it was just, most trips, like if you're coming in from an apparel brand, let's say you go out on a trip for, I don't know, Arc'teryx, like Arc'teryx is likely going to put you in all the gear. You're going to go do something outside, and then you're going to come back to your hotel at night. Yeah.
Oh, and part of our core values and just who we are as a team is we like to be a little bit more personal. We like to be authentic, and we like to just help people realize the performance that they're getting out of gear by using it, right? Which you can't do unless you're actually out there using it for what it was designed for. Mm-hmm. So this time, what was really fun is taking that just a step further and gearing this all towards YouTubers that already knew how to be outside. They already knew all this stuff. They were comfortable sleeping out on the trail. And so that was just a lot of fun and being with people that were just comfortable on the trail. Now, we didn't have to worry about...
We may have to dive into comfortable on the trail, though. At some
point. I would say that as a general statement, but there were some things that maybe were less comfortable for a few people, myself included.
No, but you're 100% right, though. Like when we were doing these, when we originally were putting on these little trips for riders and stuff, it was like, we don't want people to just like see our gear and hold it in their hands and like us to just take them out to dinner. Like, no, we want to like go on trail and let them really experience it. Like that's our brand, that's our values. Spend a lot of time on trail as a team, and that's the experience we'd want to give. And so we did have to like jump through some hoops and things to even put that on to begin with, whereas like we had to just make sure people were very confident that in what we were doing, that this wasn't some crazy idea, that we didn't need like, I don't know, say a guide present or things like that. It's like, no, like we're the guides. Like we don't need like a guiding company just to like, you know what I mean? Like we will take care of you. And so like, yeah, it was different to put those first ones on. But it felt very authentic. Right. And so, yeah, as we like, and that kind of comes back to this, when we were doing those, I was like, I did have that feeling of like, man, if I was taking Justin outdoors outside, like it would feel, he'd be confident, I'd be confident. It wouldn't be like as much of a, like, is this entire group like safe to do this? Is everyone feeling good? Like, am I pitching tents for people or, you know what I mean? Like, it just was like a lot of writers, to be honest, for whatever magazine, right? Outside magazine, massive publications, they're writers way before they're outdoorsmen. They get into the writing scene by being writers. They're writing for newspapers and stuff like that. And then they slowly come into the fold. Now, there's some other ones out there that are, they're dirtbags. And I love the dirtbags. Like they are dirtbags, and then they become writers. And those are like, it's way cool. But you get all walks on that side. Whereas with YouTube, you get your occasional princesses like Dan Becker, but this guy, just kidding. But like for the most part, like they're pretty much dirtbags. They're users of the gear. So yeah, I mean, we took that same principle though, and we applied it to this scenario. And I don't know, like, what do you want? I mean, what do you want to go with this? I mean, obviously people want to know what it's like to backpack with eight different YouTubers, and we'll get into the funny nuances of it and the little takeaways and stuff like that are just kind of comical and kind of behind the scenes, I guess, to do. But I don't know, before we just jump into the trail itself, is there anything you want to recap on people coming in or just what the whole experience was like maybe day one?
Well, I think for me, one of the most interesting parts was actually getting to see the authenticity of all of the YouTubers as well. I mean, we've touched on how that's valuable to us to be authentic, but then it's really cool to see other people in the industry and all these YouTubers were actually very authentic. And if you've watched any of their videos on their channels, that's pretty much how they are. Their personalities in a lot of cases, but there's more of it, and you get to see a little more deeply when they're in person with you, and that was kind of right off the bat apparent. The other thing that was cool is a lot of them are not from the Western United States, with the exception of Eric Hansen. He actually lived in Southern Utah for a little while. But seeing their reactions, I was the one picking them up from the airport, and Tayson was out there parked in the desert. He had his Razor ready to go. We had a trailer just kind of to hang out. It was before we could get anybody into an Airbnb or anything to wind down after all their travel. So we figured, let's just play around for a while until we can get to the Airbnb and relax.
Yeah.
So as I was driving them from the airport to where the trailer was parked, everyone's just looking out the window and pulling out their cameras to film the red sand and just all this kind of stuff that's, taken for granted by us, I guess. And that was fun. And they're immediately cracking jokes just like they are on their channels. That's just how they are. And that was really fun. So,
yeah, I mean, to speak to that authentic side, I think there's a real thing specifically in TV where you have your TV personality. Well, like a TV personality, a lot of it is formatted by writers and directors too. Like, hey, we need you to be in this, authoritative position and kind of act this way and this. And so then you people meet those people off camera and they're like, oh, they actually weren't nice. They were complete jerks. Or hey, this guy, was whatever it was. Their personality is different off camera versus on camera. I think it is a little bit different with YouTube, where actually I would say pretty much everyone on the trip and almost any YouTuber I've ever met, they feel very similar to how they do on camera. Usually it's funny to see what parts of their personality they choose to maybe bolster up a little bit or pull back a little bit. But it is a part of them, right? So right. Actually what's funny is say with Eric Hansen, that dude is funny. I mean, he's just constantly cracking jokes, being just this goofball of a guy that's just, it's so funny to be around him. And then you watch his videos and he is a goofball in the videos, but he actually tones it down, which is kind of interesting to me because to me, that's a superpower he has and he does use it, but so there's just little variations like that you see in everyone where they'll maybe they'll lean a little bit into this part of their personality, maybe pull it back a little bit, but it is still all very visible on their YouTube channels, who they are, how they act, some of their mannerisms.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome just to get to know them. Obviously we emailed them and talked to them or texted them before, or sometimes some of them we'd actually talked to the phone with them before, but to meet them in person and to hang out a little bit was just fun. I think that's just simply put, it was just fun.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I do want to also preface this to say that we weren't sponsoring anything with them. We just pretty much how the invite went for this trip was, hey, we love what you do. Your channel's awesome. We think you're cool. What we're doing is we're trying to get a YouTuber meetup going here. We want to just get a lot of backpacking YouTubers together. Let's hang out. Let's learn from each other. And then also, since Outdoor Vitals is paying for this, we're flying everybody out. The only ask that we have is that you allow us to give you some gear and then use it when we're backpacking. And everybody seemed to resonate with that really, really well. And it was fun for us too. It was kind of low stakes, low pressure. Just they have questions about our gear, we could show it to them as we were hiking or using or setting up camp or whenever they needed it. And it was just nice. So just wanted to put that little preface in there. This is not a sponsored trip. Any videos or anything you might see on their channels, we're not paying for those. We just really wanted to meet them and have them out here with us. So,
yeah. So I guess to go back to day one and kind of move forward, you were picking them up. You're bringing them from the airport over to a camp trailer where we were hanging out with the Razor and just kind of chilling while we were waiting for our Airbnb to open up.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, right? In Utah, it's very common for people to be around or have side-by-sides. And I happen to have one. And so I thought I'd just offer it up. Like, oh, if you guys want to go on a ride, I'll take you up on top of these sand dunes. You can get great views of Zion and Pine Valley and just see a different side of things. And I always questioned like whether people are just going to be really nervous and scared. And it's just like, all right, we're just going to go slow. We'll take like the Jeep road essentially and just go look at the views, or whether they would like want to like, you know, go like we're going in a trophy truck and like mob through the desert and like, you know.
Which is always the right answer, by the way.
Always, I was amazed. Every single person that had the opportunity wanted to go on the Razor ride. And every person that got on the Razor that at least dared say anything was totally fine, like just mobbing through the desert and just going crazy. And so I had a ton of fun kind of sharing that because like I grew up doing that as a little kid. And so like that's like kind of a part of me that was like pre even backpacking was doing some of that stuff. I grew up like on a dirt bike and so it was a lot of fun to share that. But man, like I got so much enjoyment out of just watching their faces, you know, just hearing them, you know, scream or like get nervous and then have fun and just the smiles. And there's some really good footage out there that some of these guys have put out. I think maybe the favorite footage that was captured was from Jeff Peltier's footage. So if you go check out his video, at the end of that video, I've got like me, Miranda, and Justin outdoors in the Razor, and Jeff Peltier obviously, and he's got some 360 footage. And I mean, I had to like slow the Razor down at times just so Miranda could like catch her breath. I thought she was gonna like pass out. She was laughing and screaming so hard. But man, it was a great time, and I think they just really enjoyed seeing like a different side of things, and a different side of Utah. Like it is like Derek said, it's crazy how different and diverse this area is. Like, so we're literally in the sand dunes, we're on red rocks, we're crawling around. But then you can look over and you can literally see these massive mountains that just jut up out of the desert and have snow across the top and sit at like 10,000 feet. And that's literally like you're on the doorstep of that. So really cool to just share Southern Utah with them.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, whether or not you've been to Southern Utah, I think everyone can relate to at least this concept of if you've, you know, seen a location, whether it's on a video or just kind of been taught about it in school, you have this kind of mindset of what the epitome of that place is like. And we got multiple comments kind of about that, or I did at least, from the YouTubers like, oh, this is like the actual Southern Utah experience. They're like, everyone in Southern Utah, the way I pictured it, just rides Razors around in the desert and the sand is everywhere. And that's just what you do here. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, that's not all we do, but yeah, a lot of people do.
I think a lot of people think of Moab. They think Moab when they think of Southern Utah, but Moab is actually like Eastern Utah.
Yeah, so
you know?
So glad we could help kind of give that experience to them the way they pictured the Southern Utah experience being. But it was a lot of fun. So that was the very beginning of the trip, right off the plane.
So we take everyone, we go over to the Airbnb, and I think that's where just the shenanigans really begin. You get that many YouTubers all together, and like cameras just start coming out everywhere. Everyone's filming everyone at all times, and it very much felt like this reality TV show was in progress. Just kind of almost had to assume at all times you were being recorded. And it was very, very comical. And it was so fun actually to watch these other YouTubers meet other YouTubers for the first time, right? Like some of these, like say Syntax 77, he's like the OG, like he's like the original guy out there. He's been making videos for 15 years. So some of these other guys were like, oh my gosh, it's Syntax 77. Like I watched your stuff before I ever started my channel. And like, they were like, it was like they were meeting their celebrity and like vice versa. And
everybody was like acting like best friends, even though they were meeting for the first time, which was cool. It was great.
You can like see enough of someone's life on YouTube that you feel like you know them. Yeah. And so the walls came down pretty quick for everyone, and it just felt like we were all one big group really, really quick. And so, I mean, we hung out at the Airbnb that night, got out like all their gear, kind of let them sort through things, and just had a pretty relaxing night and dinner. And then the idea was that we'd get up the next morning, have breakfast, and then basically head out onto the trail. So, I mean, that's precisely what we did. So the next day, though, we gave them some info, and this is kind of where I guess the trip actually begins. Is we said, hey, we're going to be going in. Was it 7 or was it 9 miles I thought it was only 7.
So what we ended up hiking the first day was actually like 6.
6, yeah.
But I
thought it was
under
short,
the impression.
Someone else said 9 in a video, and I was like, we didn't make them hike 9 miles, did we?
That was my fault. Frankly, that was my fault. I was under the impression after talking to Brigham, he'd scouted out like the route the week before, actually a few days before. And I think I just misunderstood or didn't listen fully. The whole round trip was about 9 or 10 miles ish, give or take. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing the first day.
Yeah,
but
we wanted to take everyone to have like an authentic experience. And in Southern Utah, like obviously Zion National Park is like the mecca of opportunity and the place people want to see. But the problem with Zion is it's like an amusement park now. There's just rides, lines for everything. It's a zoo in there. It really is, and that's a whole nother conversation, right? So it's like we're not going to try to like figure that out, and so we've kind of got these little gyms and pockets of areas where we can get to that are not as busy. And so we went to a wilderness that's just outside of Zion, where we can get a little bit of slot canyon experience. You can see similar red rocks and similar just beautiful cliffs and things like that, but that wasn't in the zoo per se. And but some of the challenges with that hike is like it's really accessible. Permitting, all that kind of stuff is just way easy. But like, but to do this particular loop that we were looking at, like we were going to have to dry camp, and there's a little bit of climbing. And to us, I guess, we knew that there was some climbing, but we're like, we have all day to do this. Like we got plenty of time. And so we told them, hey, it's going to be about 6 or so miles. We did mention we would dry camp, but the problem is with this big of a group and everyone who loves to talk, I don't know that any single person heard us all at the same time. So we tried to like tell people what it was and explain that to them. But it sounds like in some of these videos that have come out after that not everyone fully understood the itinerary at all times.
Well, you have 3 different factors playing here, and none of them are bad. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of people that love to talk, and it's great. We have to stop a lot because, getting the group to catch up to each other. It's a big group.
Anytime you got a big group and you got people pulling out cameras,
obviously they want to film.
Cadences.
But the third factor is a lot of them are just from elevations that are lower. Not all of them, but a lot of these YouTubers that we flew out,
flatlanders,
they're from areas of the U.S. that are much lower in elevation, and so we were starting at a higher elevation and then just climbing another 1,000 or 2,000 feet or something like that, which was hard if you're not even used to any elevation at all. So that also enhanced kind of, the time it took to climb up and out of this canyon.
Yeah, so we give them, I guess, the idea of what we're doing. We head out there and start climbing up this canyon, and it was fun. I mean, but right out of the gate, it was just so comical, right? Like I remember, like in Gordon, I think it's Gordon's video, like he was the first one out of the van, so that he could record everyone else getting out of the van, and then different people are like, "Hey, I want to get this shot. Like everyone line up this way." And like, man, it was just. I mean, I just laughed the whole time. Like everyone else was just laughing too. But it was a big group, and it was comical, right?
Yeah,
it was comical. But start up the trail. I mean, things are going smooth. We had everyone like weigh their backpacks, and most people carrying like 3 liters of water or so. So about 6 pounds of water. Most people were just a little over 20 pounds. So, they snuck some things in their backpacks when we weren't looking apparently, but
everybody though, I will say, was in between, I think 18 and 24 pounds. I think was the heaviest. So
yeah. And that's with camera gear. A lot of them brought tripods, have at least 5 pounds of camera gear. It seems like they're bringing big, heavy, camera and lenses and batteries. And
so Jeff Peltier, so he is the runner that Tayson mentioned before. His was by far the lightest. He's just running one of our fast packs. He had a really light setup, didn't bring a ton, but he's kind of used to running really light packs. He's done a lot of fast packing before. He's not more of a traditional backpacker like some of these other YouTubers were. So he was kind of used to running, be able to move, and part of that requires a lighter weight to be able to run.
He's also like the biggest, I don't know, camel in the group, meaning he just like could get away with way less water than most people.
That's true.
That was a big part of it. I think he only was carrying like a liter of water.
He also is from Canada, which elevation wise, it's not as different.
Well, he's from the coast though.
Oh, is he from the coast?
He's right on the water.
Okay.
He's right on the ocean.
So scratch
in
that.
Vancouver. So, yeah, I think he's just really efficient with water, and obviously being the machine that he is, he's comfortable with it too. So, yeah, he had a light pack at 18 pounds. I think he was the lightest. And anywho, so I don't know. We're going up the trail, and we didn't tell anyone that they needed to film anything, but obviously, like, you get YouTubers together, like they're going to film things, and so it was kind of comical to, like, I don't know, you'd look over and all of a sudden, like, Justin's hiding in a bush and, like, filming you, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Am I supposed to look at the camera? Am I not supposed to look at the camera? Or, like, I don't know, you'd get to, like, a really cool vantage point. Like, everyone would, like, jump down for, like, the same shot at the same angle, and it's like, wait, you were supposed to walk by the camera. No, I'm filming. You walk by the camera. It was awesome. It was really, really funny. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we climbed up the canyon, and then we keep climbing, and I think you start to realize that some of these guys realize, like, how much climbing it was. And from our perspective, is like we planned on it being a lot of climbing. It's a lot of climbing, but, like, I guess, like we just anticipated, like, slowing down as much as we needed to.
Well,
just
I guess
taking it at a pace that worked.
I was doing a lot of the communicating with these YouTubers before the trip, and in my mind, it really wasn't that much climbing. But we're coming from having just done, like, the Colorado Trail last summer and doing things like the Grand Canyon, rim to rim to rim, and it's like so much more climbing in a day than this particular trail, relatively speaking. But if you're looking at this trail objectively, there is a lot of climbing, and I just, with the way my perspective at the time, I just didn't think to really harp.
Mountain goat that he is.
I didn't think to harp on that elevation. Yeah.
I think it was fine though. I think, like, say we just had to, like, I think the group, we slowed down, we took breaks, because there was really no rush either. We got on trail early, we had all day to get there, and so, but we climb out, we kind of get to, like, the first vantage point. We stop there for a break, get some good views, like looking back towards Bryce Canyon and back, underneath us on the canyons around us. Then we drop down to really our only water supply, or at least the only place we really got water on the trip. And we tell everyone, like, hey, like, get as much water as you can. We're dry camping tonight. And there was, like, 3 or 4 people look at us like, wait, what? We're dry camping? Like, what do you mean we're dry camping? And it's like, yeah, like, camel up. We've said this. But so, we spend some time there. And then we hike up to, like, the White Domes. And then we get this vantage point of Zion. And I think it was really fun for me to take people into this country because their eyes are just this big, right? They're just bulging out of their heads, like, taking everything in, the rock formations, and I mean, they're just everything. I mean, they're picking up pieces of poop, like, what's going on? What's this? What's it? What left this? Like, it was just, they were so curious, but it was like so much commentary, so many jokes, just flying around the whole time. Good time. We get up there, we head over to camp, and we turn them loose to set up poles tents, and I don't know. I mean, that seemed well. So this is like okay, to get into some of the nuances of things. Like, this is always the most interesting part for me, is to, like, see people's personalities and then see where they choose to pitch their tents. I mean, I'm not saying you can learn everything about someone by where they pitch their tent, but you can learn things about people where they pitch their tent.
Sometimes you're surprised about it too. It's like, oh, well, I would not have thought you would have done that.
Yeah, like, one time we did one of these trips, and it was actively raining when we were setting up the tents. And, like, human psychology for, like, this group, apparently, and it was kind of like a group think, I think, activity where they're like, well, it's raining. Like, well, I'll just pitch my tent underneath this tree.
This was a different trip.
Yeah, this is a different trip. Like, and even though, like, when you pitch it under this tree, like, you may have, like, the worst plot of ground. Like, it may be a big bowl where it's going to pool water. It may be not even at all. You may have a root in your back, but, like, in the moment, you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Like, I'm out of the rain under here. But, like, the reality is, like, you're still going to get rained on. It works its way through the tree, but now you just put your tent, which is a rain barrier, in a bad situation to pitch the tent. And anyways, it's always interesting to me to see where people pitch. And so some people pitch on slants, and some people walk around in circles forever and, like, find the most flat piece of ground. Some people want to pitch where there's the best view, like, regardless of pitching conditions. And then others kind of like go in between where it's like, oh, this is decent enough, but I get this view. So I don't know. I really just enjoy like walking around camp and seeing like, all right, who picks what, right? So like Elena Osborne, like she's just an amazing hiker. She's done the Hayduke Trail, which is one of the most gnarly trails out there. It runs through southern Utah, and like she was just not afraid to like pitch her tent right where she had this like amazing view. And she's also like super comfortable. Like, oh, if my tent comes down in the night, I'm not worried about it, right?
Yeah.
Like that was like the mentality. Like she's like just so easygoing and so like just comfortable out there, right? Whereas other people like they want their tent firmly planted, pitched perfectly, level ground. I don't know, like, and then you have like the in-betweeners and stuff. But I don't know, like I'm just trying to like pull out some of the personality characteristics of what we're seeing there. I don't know if you, at this point, was there any other like personality characteristics that were just like interesting to you, Derek, that were like, back to the point of this podcast, what it's like to backpack with 8 YouTubers?
No, I think just the same of what you're already saying is like, you just immediately as people are pitching their tents, you can kind of see what their personality was like. And if you've watched any of our other videos or listened to other podcasts, I mean, we've already had a bit of that dynamic just on our team. There's Brigham, who will, find a stick and use it as a broom to sweep away every little pebble out of his little spot. Or, there's me that's just going to put it down wherever, and I'm going to be fine with it, And that was kind of fun to see. That's just how a lot of people are, too. It's just,
it was
everybody is on this spectrum of how much you care about your tent site.
Yeah, you had some people, too, that would, like, come get us to check the tent. Like, is this set up right? Like, is it perfect? And then you have others that, like, wanted to do it, like, no. Like, I need to do this 100% on my own and, like, figure this tent out by myself. And so there's, like, some dynamics there. But, I mean, yeah, back to your point, like, this is the mountain range that, like, in the past, you cowboy camped on with no tent, just slept on your pad on the ground. And, like, the next morning, you have a scorpion underneath your pad, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, and that was like, you're like, oh, shrug it off. Whereas other people, that would have been like the most terrifying thing. But I think we mentioned that story, and there was a handful of people that were like, we got to find a scorpion tonight. Like, I want to see a scorpion.
It would have been.
But I think they all left their tents pretty zipped up after we told that story.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's that same mountain where we were camping was where I'd, camped and found scorpions under my pad in the morning. So it was likely, but it didn't quite get warm enough for that. I don't think the scorpions were really out with how cool it got at night. So
yeah, we also just didn't think much about going hunting for them. I think in the evening we were all just hanging out and relaxing. I didn't cross my mind till the next morning when I was like, oh man, those guys wanted to find a scorpion. We didn't even try. Anyway, so we hang out. Some of us had dinner, some of us didn't, just because it was a little bit earlier. And then we decided to walk another mile over to some cliffs to just get some really cool lookouts of these massive red cliffs before it was dark, like right in that twilight hour. And the cliffs are really amazing. They're like about 1,000 feet tall. So just picture 1,000-foot vertical face, and you can stand right on the edge of them.
The sun was going down. It was just beautiful time to be right on top of those cliffs too. It was really cool. And everyone, again, had their cameras out, got to capture the sunset at the cliff with 1,000-foot drop. But it was really cool.
Yeah. Let's head back to camp, hang out that night, swap stories, and just BS well into the evening, and then go to sleep, get up the next morning.
Well, before you get to that, actually, with that evening hike, it was like a mile or so past where we pitched our tents, and this is going back to what we started with in the beginning, where it wasn't comfortable for everybody. Unbeknownst to us, there were a couple of people there on the trip that actually had been suffering with a lot of pain throughout the day. They just hadn't told anyone about it. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't actually quite make it to these cliffs or the views. There was a big hill when we were, almost to the cliff, but then it dropped off and you had to go down this really steep incline. And so one of the guys, he had some bulging disc pain. Another guy was coming off of a knee surgery recently. And they saw that incline after hiking up all day long. And they're like, nope. I mean, if this is a leisure evening hike and I don't need to do it to get to my camp, then it's going to hurt too bad. So I felt bad about that once I learned about their pain that they'd been
Well, we weren't aware of it. Right?
We didn't know.
Why didn't they come down? Like, there was maybe some speculation that like they just didn't want to walk down the steep face. Like maybe it was too steep for them. We're like, what is going on? Like, where'd they go? And
so we come back
weeks later. We even found out.
Yeah. So they're just troopers. They're tough. Both of those guys are really tough.
Yeah. So another like I guess just character nuance that was kind of funny is when we were hanging out at camp, Miranda was trying to teach everyone a pretty silly game, and it was rather silly, and how like I would say half the YouTubers like jumped onto this game and like were totally game. The other half were like, no idea, no idea what's going on, no interest in it. But man, like I guess just to go back to that, like I would say like to recap day one, like what that was just like was in a lot of ways it felt like you're backpacking with a bunch of kids. Like everyone was just a bunch of goofballs, hilarious, awkward in their own ways, weird in their own ways, totally normal in their own ways. Like, but it really felt like, I don't know, like almost going back to like school age where like you've got a classroom and you've just got all types in there, but like everyone in this particular situation, like everyone liked each other and everyone was just constantly just cracking jokes and I don't know, like everyone's just a flat out goofball.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say.
It was great. That was a lot of fun.
Anyways, we go to bed that night. Gets pretty chilly, right around freezing, I think was what we recorded. And then next morning, we're just planning to get up and essentially complete a loop and kind of go drop down another canyon and out. Everyone was a little weary after bringing them on day one that we had more hiking or climbing to do. So I did get a lot of questions that morning of like, hey, what's going on? Like, what are we doing today? I can't trust Derek now. So, so what's going on? And I was like, no, like it's all downhill. Well, that's what you said yesterday. That was pretty, that wasn't that much climbing. I'm like, well, what does all downhill mean? I'm like, So I came up with this term called Utah flat. And I think that became a bit of a theme for the trip. Was like, oh yeah, it's Utah flat all the way back, which basically means, in my mind, Utah flat means like the starting elevation and the ending elevation are the same, and you're gonna go up and down in between because there's no such thing as flat in Utah, right? It's like it's all gonna have some hills and some elevation and some topography. And in this scenario, we were absolutely losing a ton of elevation, but man, the second we hit even like a 20-foot climb. Tayson, you said it was all downhill. You said it was Utah flat. so I definitely had to eat my words a little bit. I'm like, I specifically didn't say all downhill. I said it was Utah flat because that means there's going to be a few hills, sneaking in here.
I've had that same problem over and over and over again. I try to take, my in-laws hiking and stuff or on some kind of adventure and they'll always ask me, how far is it or how much climbing is there? And the one time when I was dating my wife, or either that or we were just recently married, we went on a short hike, and I said, "Oh yeah, it's just like a couple miles." And then, probably up there getting tired because it's kind of steep where we were hiking, and they, I tell them, I don't know, like quarter mile, half mile left to the top, and it was like another mile. And so ever since then, they won't believe me, and they give me all kinds of crap anytime I'm like even just barely off on anything, when we're out doing stuff.
Yeah. That does, not to get on too big of a tangent, but that does remind me actually, because I just was back doing rim to rim to rim, right? And I was remembering when I was going up the North Rim, there's a lot of us that just were like that first time that we did it when we were fast packing it. We just really weren't ready for the level of exertion. And then we ran down the South Rim and it just really beat us up. And I remember getting to a point where like we've got to be almost to the top, and everyone was like yeah, we've got to be almost there. We've been climbing for hours, like we've almost got to be there. And I pulled my phone out to check like how high we were and how high the top of the trail was, and everyone's like, we've got to be like way under 1,000 feet left. And I looked at it and we still had 2,000 feet to the rim. And I remember specifically lying to you guys in that situation. I was just like, I did not dare tell you guys how far it still was because I was like, I will crush them.
Hey, we made it. It's all right. I mean,
I know. No one held a grudge for me on that one, so I'm sorry that you had a grudge held against you.
It's not too bad. It's mostly just, my wife probably brings it up the most often.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta do that. People don't know what it takes to experience great things, so you gotta trick them into it. It's what you're gonna learn with your kids when they come in here. So
yep, absolutely. So we were crawling down this mountain, and I'd actually never been on this loop option before.
Oh, you hadn't? Okay.
Nope. I've only come up Water Canyon and gone back down Water Canyon. So the other canyon that we were going down during this day 2 was called Squirrel Canyon, right?
Yep.
I'd never been that way. So people were asking me, Outdoor Vitals were hosting this trip.
Hey,
where
there.
are we going, or how far is it? I'm like, I have no idea. I've never actually, on maps I've probably seen it, but
dude,
I've never actually been down this particular canyon. So I kind of actually in my head pictured it to be more of a gradual, just like slope, because that's kind of what it looked like.
There was some steep get-offs
in a lot of places, but there was some like very steep slopes during part of that trail in the morning there.
Yeah, I hadn't thought anything about it either. Like, to me, that was like a gradual descent. And then when I was on it, I'm like, oh, this is more steep than I remember. And people called me out on that. You said this was just a nice, easy down to the car. But no, the day before, where we were at, like, there is not much of a designated trail because it's sand and rock. So sand can obviously get blown over. So the trail like disappears, and then on rock, like the only thing you can do is stack cairns, right? And so there was like literally, I don't know, 10 minutes where I was like off trail, not really off trail, but like I'm trying to navigate. The trail on the map doesn't exist. Like it is actually completely in the wrong spot, like where it's drawn on the Forest Service maps. So you really just have to wayfind your way. And so we started like this kind of wayfinding, like, all right, should we drop down here? Should we go a little bit further, then drop down? Oh man, dude, I didn't hear the end of that. Like Tayson doesn't know where he's going. We're lost. We don't know what we're doing.
Everybody talking to their camera. Tayson just brought us out here to eliminate the competition.
Yeah.
Just going to get rid of us.
Take down all these YouTubers so his channel could be bigger. Oh man, I heard it all, but it was there were some squeaky wheels out there, like not like real squeaky, like annoying, but just comical squeaky wheels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we cruised down the rest of that trail. It was a good day. I mean, it started to get hot, but other than that, it was just a really fun experience. Got back to the van, and I think the consensus was like that was just, I think everyone there felt like it was a really cool route. Got to see some really cool backcountry. And just a side that felt very much, I think we did accomplish the goal of like taking them more on a local hike, right? Like not so much like a Zion hike or a national park hike or a super established trail that everyone knows. So we kind of gave them that local experience and got to show them some of that backcountry that exists there that a lot of people drive by and have no idea it's there, right?
Yeah.
I had another thought. I'm going to lose it. The other part that I was just going to say is this trailhead actually starts out of a city called Colorado City. And I think that was half the fun too, is this is like where there's a religion around here that everyone knows is like polygamous, right? The FLDS group that's been made famous thanks to a Netflix documentary. And so everyone also, enjoyed kind of driving through the town and trying to like spot people that were a part of this religion. And it's just little things like that were just normal to us. Like they're our neighbors, you know what I mean? And but fun to just take people through this area and connect dots, because I think everyone had seen that. I mean, if it goes on Netflix, apparently everyone in the world sees it now.
Yeah, so. I guess so.
Anyways, that was the day. Came back to the Airbnb. Basically did dinner that night, hung out. We did a few other things like specific to YouTube, and then had a really mean late night ping pong match, and that was kind of the end of the trip. But so coming back to it, I guess, is there any other just thoughts of like, man, what is it like to backpack? So let me just reframe the question. Like we started with like what's it like to backpack with 8 YouTubers? We've kind of answered that. We've touched on just some of the quirkiness, the fun, the weird side of it. But if I was just to simplify it to like, what is it like to backpack with a YouTuber? If you're someone in the audience, right? Like if you're talking to someone in the audience who's just never backpacked with really anyone but like themselves, their own friend group, but they watch all these YouTubers, like what would it be like for them to go on their very first trip with a YouTuber?
I think one of the best ways I could answer that question personally is the fun, for a few reasons. If someone feels comfortable enough to, spend all their time making YouTube videos about something, that activity is something they're very familiar with. They're comfortable with it. And then they're going to add another level of complexity by, bringing cameras and starting to create videos, right? Mm-hmm. So backpacking with the YouTuber, it's fun in the sense that they're not stressed. They're not really worried so much about backpacking. They're pretty comfortable doing that activity. And so that it just makes it fun. It's something they obviously love and enjoy. You don't start a YouTube channel about something you hate. So they're out there having fun doing things that they want to do, which also enables me to have fun doing what I like to do. So yeah, it's just fun. They're confident, they're comfortable, they like being there, and I think that's checks all the boxes for somebody you'd want to hike with.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say I agree as well. I don't know. I feel like what you would find if you were to go backpacking with someone is at first it would be you'd have like a celebrity type feeling, which is kind of funny, right? Because like these people don't feel like celebrities, but like in this little neck of the woods, they're total celebrities, right? So like first you kind of get that, and then like the more time you spend with them, the more like human they get, and the more like just humanized they become. The more you realize they're just good, solid people. Everyone that we were there with just felt like really good humans. They're accountable, they're hard workers, they're disciplined, they're trying to do good in the world. Like they're just solid people. And so I think like some of the stuff like you don't anticipate with them, and some are like it's interesting, right? Because some like are super technical. They want to like know everything about the gear, or test out specific things. Other ones, they're more there for the actual experience itself, and being just present outdoors or being with the people. Maybe they're really focused on the people, but like, in the end, I guess I would just say is like, it's not, and this is like anticlimactic, but it's not as crazy as you think. Like it's like they're not as different as maybe just hiking with your own group of friends.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that totally aligns with even what I had said too. Like now that you say that, I definitely agree, because I would have just as much fun hiking with my friends, especially friends that also just like backpacking and being outside. It's just kind of the same.
Yeah. And I think one of the big takeaways again, and this is something we've known for years, right? But like maybe can be applicable, is like when you take people out on trail together and you spend trail miles together, you're walking. It actually uses different parts of your brain, and it makes conversation flow more freely. And so anytime you go out on a trip, there's a camaraderie, and I never say that word right, but you know what I mean. Camaraderie.
I think you actually got it. I think that's it.
That develops that I personally just cherish, right? So, and I find that with anyone that I've ever backpacked with. In fact, like Brennan Clark was just texting me yesterday, and it's just like, man, that's someone who like worked for us for a bit, but really like I didn't bond that well with him until like we went backpacking together, and just stuff like that, like where real bonds are formed. And so I think like anytime you can get your own friends or family out on trail with you, whether you lie to them about it being a half mile and it's 3 miles or whatever Derek said, there will be a bond that's generated. And backpacking with these YouTubers, we started off with a bunch of strangers, and I feel like we definitely left with a bunch of friends, and they're all quirky in their own ways, and we love them for it, and we like just recognize that, and it's so fun, I guess, to go from just not knowing people day one to feeling like you've got a real friendship at the end of it. So yeah, these people are real people. They're literally just like they are on their YouTube channels.
Yeah, they really are. It's awesome,
and it's a good time. Don't if you ever see them and out there, be sure to razz them. I gave you permission to go up and be like, "Hey, I know you, Eric Hansen," and just bug them. Like I think there's a lot of people that don't always say hi when you see these guys, but like they like it. They like getting to know their followers and stuff. So don't ever hesitate to go say hi. And none of them are mean. None of them will ever like shrug you off. I don't think they'll be appreciative that you follow them, that you support them in their careers and stuff. So yeah, just all super, super good dudes, but
definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I had for Backpacking with 8 YouTubers. Good time. Appreciate all of the YouTubers themselves that came out for sure. Yeah, appreciate you guys definitely following along. If you haven't yet, we'd really appreciate it if you make sure to subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast. That helps us. And then just be tuned in. We've got a lot of things coming in the next month or two. As far as just trail efforts, but also in terms of some product launches. So we do have our Skyline Trail joggers coming out, which is a really interesting take on essentially a pair of pants or joggers that you're really going to want to pay attention to. But that's coming down the pipeline. We'll continue to sneak some things out. You can already kind of get a sneak peek of that in our recent Colorado Trail documentary. So if you've got an hour to have a really awesome experience hiking the Colorado Trail with us, go watch that. Got some really awesome footage there, but you'll also get some sneak peeks of us doing 100 miles in these joggers. And so we've got that. We've got some other things going on. Join the membership because we do have some things specific to the membership that'll go on during the month of May. So make sure you join that. Again, the membership is a $10 a month charge, but it's $10 a month that goes straight into your savings account at Outdoor Vitals, and then you can spend it on OV gear or things like water filters or backpacking food that's all been marked down, cheaper than you can actually get it in a retail store. So just a couple things to point out of what's to come. We've got some great content coming. We've got some great sales and some great new products coming. So stay tuned. Really, really appreciate you guys tuning into the show today. And with that, we'll sign off. We'll catch you guys out on the trail.